Hello and welcome to the 12 Months Marathon Podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with marathon dreams, episode 66, Should You Run With Music? So, quick update from me. I am less than a week away from High Rocks as I record this, which is very exciting. I've trained really well for it. I've doubled down on my running, interestingly enough, because in the past, I've almost assumed that my running is going to be okay, so I haven't focused on that as much. So, I've definitely doubled down on the running this time, so I'm feeling quite confident for that. Beyond that, we don't know. Let's get through this first and then we'll go from there. Now, what I want to do today is talk about music because I briefly mentioned it last week with the super shoes, and the reason why I wanted to cover this one is because April 2023 was the last time I ever ran with music, and that was the Manchester Marathon. And it was Manchester Marathon 2023 when I did my first sub 3, which if you followed this podcast for a while, you know that was a quite big deal for me. So the reason why I did it, if I'm honest, is two reasons. Firstly, because I was looking at 1%. So I was looking at the 1%, which I briefly mentioned on last week's podcast around super shoes, on what are the things that are going to give me that extra edge to get me under 3 hours, which is what I wanted to do, because I've been quite close before. And secondly, the other reason, which might not be a good reason, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it, was I always used to notice the people around me at runs didn't wear headphones. So the people sort of in that bracket of sort of, 3:15 to 3 hour marathon bracket, a lot of those people and faster than that were not wearing headphones. So I just thought there's probably something in that, and it's probably something worth looking at. So that's the two reasons why I did it. So I'm going to go through with you now just some pros and cons to think about from my experience and also from speaking to people about it as well. Now, I always like to do a quick disclaimer on this. I don't advise people not to run with music as a rule because there's a big motivational element to it. Okay, because a lot of runners swear by it. I could never imagine running without music. And I'll always remember many years ago when I was training for a marathon, I had a pair of headphones that didn't have a very good battery life. And they ran out halfway around a 20-mile run. And I remember running the second half of it and it just felt really odd. And I almost had a mini meltdown in the sense of I was so used to doing this thing that I was really worried that it was going to affect my performance. Now, the two sides of the coin on this are the motivational and mood aspects of running versus the disconnection that it can give you. Okay, so those are the two contrasting arguments to think about, and I've experienced both. So again, I used to swear by music, and now I don't run with it at all, and I haven't ran with it since. As he looks up at a cupboard which has got two very expensive pairs of Shocks headphones in. If you are going to run with headphones, Shocks are the ones to go for, by the way. So let's get through some pros and cons on a headline level, personal experience, and stuff that I have researched from speaking to people. So let's talk about the pros first. Now, I've mentioned one, which is the motivational aspect and the mood boosting aspect of it. Now, this is why I don't recommend it as a rule, because I think for most people, it's very hard to sometimes get motivated to go out to run, particularly as we head into the winter months and the darker months here in the UK. So music can help boost your dopamine, and one particular song maybe can help you. So when I did my first marathon, there was a particular song that I listened to for the last 3 miles that reminded me of my mom, who I promised on a deathbed I'd run the marathon in 4 hours. So I used that as a thing, and I always used to use that in the last few miles of a run because it would boost me up, and it did actually work, to be fair. But what I've noticed since then, which I'll come on to, it hasn't really impacted my performance since. Okay, but number one, if music gets you out, great. Number two, if it helps you stay motivated in run, brilliant. Number three, if it helps you to perform better, brilliant. These are all good things. It can also help with pacing and cadence. Now, I think I briefly mentioned this on the cadence podcast, but actually running with certain music which has got certain beats per minute can help you with your cadence. Now, this is not something I've ever tested, I'll be honest with you. I've not experienced this myself, but it's probably worth thinking about if cadence is something that you look at. And if you're not looking at cadence, you really should be, particularly if you want to get faster. And there's a podcast on that. Please feel free to search it. Okay, so it can help with pacing. Distraction, which I think, to be honest, is a lot of the reasons why people use music is for distraction. It's what I used to do. It would distract you away from a run. If you get a good song or a couple of good songs or a playlist that really gets you away from running and focuses you on the music, then that's absolutely fine. It's a really good thing. And that's not cheating, because of course most runs, except certain ones, will allow you to run with music. I think there are certain runs where they don't necessarily close the roads off, or it's not safe to run with in-ear headphones, but now with things like shocks and bone conductors and stuff like that, you can certainly leave your ears open. And I ran with shocks, and shocks are brilliant. So it is a distraction, and that can help you, which again is another reason why I don't do it as a rule of thumb. I don't say running with music is bad. And it can give you some confidence if you're trying on your own a lot. So if you are a solo runner, which I know a lot of people who are, I'm a solo runner primarily, it can distract you from, it can give you confidence. Well, distraction is the key theme here, but it can give you confidence as well, to be all right on your own, to sort of lose yourself in a song and not have to worry about what's going on around you. And to be fair, I know a lot of people who run very, very well with music, and they run better with music. And I know people who run sort of, really quick paces, and they still run with music. So again, it's not, there's no hard and fast here. It's just worth considering. Okay, so if you are a runner who runs with music, what I've just gone through there is probably going to be a little bit obvious. What I want to talk about here is arguably the case against it, which is what I've experienced, because again, I was man and boy on this. I was always running with music, always running with music, always running with music. And I'm going to give you some headline stuff and some stuff from research and then my own personal experience. So, of course, safety and awareness has to be considered. Again, I've talked about that now. I think when you've not got necessarily in-ear headphones, that's less of a concern nowadays, because of just the fact of the number of brands. I mean, years and years and years ago, when you only had sort of in-ear headphones available, then this was more of a concern. I think nowadays, because we have got bone conductors and things like that, safety and awareness is still a concern, but it's perhaps not as much of a concern if you wear shocks or something like that. Now, disconnection from your body. Now, this is the one that I always talk about with people when I'm talking about breathing, because the first thing, in my opinion, that you have to sort out when it comes to running is your breathing, because breathing, of course, is very calming. And if you're new to this and you go out too quick, you're going to lose your breathing and it's going to make you panic, whatever. So I think actually, to get a rhythm, I think that's why I think sometimes it's okay to do some runs without music, because you get that connection to your body and your breath. And I think that's important. And also your pacing and the way you structure your running as well. And I think if you're distracted by music, you can't do that. And this is where it really helped me. So, yeah, I think the connection or disconnection piece is very, very important. So that's why I think, particularly if you want to get faster, that's definitely one where you might want to do shorter runs without music occasionally, just to give you that extra edge, as it were, that extra sort of awareness of your body, which is important. Just be careful as well. If you do a lot of races, you might come across a race that doesn't allow in-ear headphones, and that can throw you, particularly if they are quite strict with it. So again, I think there's something called, I've probably mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. There's something called the law of requisite variety, which is the person with the most flexibility of behaviour will end up controlling the system. And I think if you've got flexibility of behaviour as a runner, including that, they've caught me out on a race, I can't wear my headphones, but you can deal with that, I think that's good. And I think if you do some training without music, it can prepare you for that. I think it gives you mental resilience, and I think it allows you to stay more present, to listen to your thoughts. And there's a big issue here. There's a bigger piece of work here, and I'll probably do some podcasts on this. It's a piece of work that I'm doing at the moment with myself about how to sit with thoughts, how to sit with feelings, instead of using something to take them away from you. Okay, so music as a distraction is good. Music as something to push your feelings away, perhaps not as good. Different conversation, different day. But I think in running terms, it certainly allowed me to be a bit more present with my running, and I think that's a good thing. And I think that's a good thing just generally in life, which again is a different conversation for a different day. Right, so I have done both. Okay. And going back to super shoes, going back to everything we talk about, running does have some fundamental principles, I believe. Okay. And one of those principles, I think, is flexibility. And I think you need to be adaptable and be able to try different things and see what works. And it's doing something intentionally and doing something with a plan to say, right, I am not somebody who doesn't say I must. So I must run with music or I must run without. So if I went for a run tomorrow with music, I'd be fine. Do you know what I mean? Because I've done both. And I think sometimes it's good to have a balance, and it's good to say, well, let me go and experience this. Let me go and experience my thoughts. Let me go and listen to my breath. Let me go and hear myself run. Yeah, so you can get the balance. And I think that's really important as well. So I certainly wouldn't discount either. And I think sometimes when we use running as meditation, movement, the old classic running is meditation for people who can't sit still, I think that without music is going to allow you to do that. And going back to super shoes and going back to most things with running, this is a tool. Music should be a tool, not a requirement, okay? And I would never tell anybody not to and forcefully do that. I think it's up to you. But if somebody come to me and said, I want to get faster and I think my breathing's an issue, then I would use this as definitely as a mechanism, as a tool to do that. As with most things, with this, there are no right answers. It depends on your goals and your personal preference. So some questions actually that have popped up here, which are quite interesting to ask yourself, and I've touched on them as well, but I've put them in a format that will help you. So the first question to ask yourself is, do I run with music because I enjoy it or because I can't run without it? Good question. Yeah, am I using music to enhance the run or escape it? Is it safe to wear headphones where I run? And can I mix it up on some runs? Have music on some and silence on the others? Okay. My advice, worst advice I know, but I'm going to give you some advice, is to try it once. Just try it once on a short run where you're in control and you know what you're doing. If you are a I must run with music type of person, just try one without and just see how it sits and how it feels for you. Okay. So going back to the start of this, here's the key principle to take away. The answer, there isn't a yes or a no to this. It's a, what am I doing it for? Okay, is it a boost or is it a distraction? And those are the two key words to use. So on some runs, you might need a boost. On some runs, you might be trying to distract yourself, which is fine. But is that a good distraction, or is it a distraction that's distracting you from dealing with stuff or thinking or using running as a meditative tool? Okay, so ask yourself those questions, and I'll just do those questions again because they're quite good. Do I run with music because I enjoy it or because I can't run without it? Am I using music to enhance the run or escape it? Or is it safe to wear headphones where I train? And can I mix it up? And it's the final question for me, the can I mix it up, that's really important, because that's the one where you get that flexibility. And I believe having flexibility as a runner is the most important thing you can do. And that's just not physically, that's mentally as well. So that's my take on whether or not you should run with music. So let me give you a good example. So I'm working with somebody at the moment in my coaching program who tried it and thinks it's a good idea occasionally, but not all the time. And they did that because they tried it and they took it on their own back to experience it. So it's certainly something that I would put on the table for yourself if you are a stalwart when it comes to listening to music, but also make sure that you look at the complete picture here and look at the complete package, as it were, because some people who perhaps haven't really got get faster as a goal, this might not be as important. Okay, but it's always worth considering things and having a look, because you don't know where it might take you and you don't know how it could improve your performance. Okay, so hopefully that's useful. Of course, any thoughts or feedback, I'd appreciate those over on Instagram at 12 months to marathon. As always, if it's your first time listening to the podcast, please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from for your weekly episodes. I'd be delighted for you to do that, as always. Of course, if you do want to give me a quick review as well and a star rating and drop a comment in, that really helps me as well, so I'd appreciate that. So drop a comment or a review if you like the podcast, and also share it with your friends on social media, as I'd appreciate that as well. And of course, if you do want to join my free online running community for the over 35s, just go to at 12 months to marathon on Instagram, go to my bio, click the link tree, and it's in there. You can join for free, where we can take you away from the noise of social media and connect over there. So yeah, feel free to reach out. If you have a spring marathon coming up, we're getting towards the end of the year, and you want to ask me about any sort of coaching or support, again, let's have a chat over on Instagram at 12 months to marathon. I'll gladly have a chat to you, and we'll see if and how we can help. So yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. Feel free to try it out, and please feel free, if you do try it out and it's something new and you want to give me some feedback, I'd always welcome that as well. Thanks very much, everyone, and I'll speak to you all very soon indeed.